On this week's episode of Invasive Species, we head to the heartland of America, where in Muncie, Indiana, a few creatures are no longer friends. First up on this list is the emerald ash borer.
So we're here in Ball State University's West Quad at the unfortunate grave marker of another ash tree. And this tree was cut down by the grounds crew because it was invaded by the new invasive species in Muncie, Indiana called the emerald ash borer. This insect will bore into ash trees while they're mating, lay their eggs inside the crevices in the tree, and then when the eggs hatch, the larvae will eat their way out of the tree, thus killing it, and then when they reach maturity, they'll spread to other trees in the area. So to contain this infestation, the tree just has to be removed from the grounds before the larvae can infect others further. But if you notice, we are not 100 yards away from our classroom, and right in our own backyard we have overwhelming evidence of invasive species here in Muncie, Indiana.
Next, we'll talk about a creature that most Hoosiers are very familiar with. It is the gray squirrel.
Here we stand in West Quad. This is where an invasive species has become a common creature. It is the gray squirrel. The gray squirrel has started carrying the parapox virus, and this virus does not affect the gray squirrel, but it is fatal to the red squirrel. It also is much larger than the common red squirrel, whose natural habitat is an area just like this. But the red squirrel is outcompeted due to competitive exclusion because the gray squirrel is so much larger than it.
Next up, we'll talk about the honeysuckle plant.
As you can see here, we have a hedge of plants. These plants are bush honeysuckle. Bush honeysuckle is an invasive plant that comes from Eurasia, and it will outcompete any other plant in the woods. Bush honeysuckle is very, very invasive, and the reason that makes it so invasive is that it will take over and block out shade so nothing else can grow underneath this plant, so it will leave behind bare dirt. Bush honeysuckle has also been known to release toxins into the soil to inhibit more plant growth. And if left uncontrolled, it will take over a woods within no time. So that is why there are conservation teams and plans out there to eradicate this invasive species.
We've talked about beetles, mammals, and plants. Now, onto aquatics, where we'll discuss the grass carp.
Flowing behind me, we have the White River in Muncie, Indiana, which the invasive species, the grass carp, has invaded and started to take over, and mainly is feeding on native aquatic plants that exist here, therefore altering the ecosystem. And as carp numbers multiply, this will only get worse.
Here we stand in the natural habitat. It's not the natural habitat if it's invasive.
Hey, look! Those frogs are eating all their crops!